full body stretch out ball, some kind of ball, a nice hard ball. Little golf ball works wonders for my feet. I got to play some pickleball on Saturday. That was really a treat. It wasn't high level competitive. It's a really interesting thing when I already know that when I know that I need to actually play a less aggressive game, it's funny how that absolutely changes the whole game. Not to make it not fun, but I can see how it kind of brings my overall ability lower. I can feel that happening while I'm playing. I guess it's just you kind of get a little lazy, switch sides. And now anybody, any of the other players would probably say, oh, don't do that for me. But yet without doing that, I would feel like I'm just doing kill shots, right? And so though I did enjoy it, it was a very gentle 2 hours worth, but gentle. And so it was nice, but then it made me go, okay, the next time I get on the court, I just know I'm probably gonna get spanked just based on my body, being like, kind of in lazy play. I don't know if that ever happens to you, Peggy, but man, I kind of hate that. I hate that feeling. Oh, wow. Gnarly. My feet feel like got some gnarly spots in there. Ah, I don't have one foot doesn't feel worse than the other, so that's a good thing. They both feel they both feel equally abused, I guess, right? This is supposed to be the feel good part. A couple more seconds. And cut. Okay. So how's about, I'm going to see if I can find my yoga block. If you had something firm, actually, I'm not going to put my yoga block into it. I'm going to bring one of my dumbbells over, and this will give me a little prop for my toes. So two things are going to happen here. We're going to specifically address big toe. Just don't know how far away. It's amazing to me. I feel like I'm like in the shadows, and I know I say that every time, but I have as much light on it. Let's see. That might be a little bit better. Okay. So, something firm. Your yoga block may work, but because this has got this hexagonal shape to it, it will stay put, right? So what I want you to do is take your big toe, just focus on your big toe and put it on the edge, right? Let the other toes come off of whatever object, so that will set you up for which side of your block or support are you using. You're trying just to put the big toe up and let the other toes, so keep making your adjustments till you feel your big toes slide down so that the other toes flatten out, right, to the best of your ability. And it may take a couple of tries to actually get it just right. And once you feel like your toes, the other toes are free of your support base, start pushing your weight to it, all right? And just hold on to it. There's something that you can do with your knee and your ankle to slightly change the pressure on your big toe. So once you get onto the foot of the stretching side. Make sure that the other toes aren't pulling up. Do the best you can to lengthen, right? And apply pressure, and then watch yourself float your ankle in, which would represent collapsed arch, right? And then a little bit of rotation out, right? You got to just keep dialing your focus onto the other toes, making sure that they're not pinching up. And when you rock your ankle, where do you feel like you're getting the most stretch? Right? And then relax. Now, you're going to do the entire foot, right? So go center the ball of the foot. Find your step forward position, right? So that non-weighted leg, it's your assist foot, is soft kneed so that you can maximize the calf stretch. And now it's very subtle, right? But what I want you to do is just soften the back knee a little bit and then re-straighten it. Soften and straighten. And you can come, when you soften the knee, you can come down as much as you want to compress into it, right? Because as you draw your center of gravity down, what's happening, hopefully, is your knee is pushing forward towards the toes. And then you can stay in forward hinge and just bend and push. Here's what you're visually inspecting and scanning on your stretch leg side. When you bend your leg, does your foot roll out? You want to avoid that. So don't let the big toe and the ball of the foot offload from a non-centered position, right? Here we go, draw down. The drawing down is where you're going to meet the resistance at that ankle flexion, all right? When you extend the leg and you pull yourself up, you're now in calf stretch. So we bend the leg, right? Shove the hips back, draw down. We're encouraging ankle flexion. Straighten the leg, pull yourself up, align your glutes, bend and soften the knee, compress down. This is your last one. Re-straighten the leg, pull yourself up. All right, leg number 2. Here you go. Put the big toe up. Try to let the other toes slide down. Start rocking your weight to it. And there's this thing, depending on how your big toe rests, right? If you're nimble enough, you can apply pressure to the other toes to push them down, right? While you float your ankle and knee in and out. And if your big toe doesn't seem to be aligning properly, manually pull that toe away from the others, right? A little twisting. These are just subtle little nuances in your typical stretch. You see, the thing is we don't typically stretch our toes. We often just think about the calf, right? But your big toe has a huge job. And so now, though we didn't do it on the other leg, I'm going to just demonstrate, okay? So if you will just bend both legs with that big toe propped up, can't you feel a massive amount of stretch running through what is that part of your foot? It's part of your Achilles tendon. And all you're doing is propping your big toe up. So that line for so many people who suffer with plantar fasciitis, right? It's so much more than just treating the calf and the bottom of the foot. The toe has a huge job. Step out of it, put the ball of the foot up. And here's the thing, is often we don't even realize that we've got a part of us that seems so insignificant that needs attention. So, right? If you just want to start with the calf stretch, okay? If when you prop your foot up and you get your rear non-weighted leg forward and you're like, I don't feel anything in my calf, then that just means you don't have enough angle up of the toes to what your flexibility of your gastroc is. All right. So you just creep that foot to more a steeper incline, step forward, keep your heel depressed and a nice straight leg to start, and then you'll feel your stretch. And then you can soften your knee. And the higher your angled foot is, the less ability you'll probably have when it comes to bending the leg and doing the different part of the stretch, but that's okay. So I'm going to stay here. I'm going to draw down, hunker down. For me, I know that I have rolled my right ankle so many times that this ankle has a much greater restriction to it. So as I hunker down, right? It's not that I don't feel the stretch. It's that what I feel is at that flexed position, the decreasing, and that's the joint mobility, right? So come up, because remember, flexibility and joint mobility, they're different quadrants of the body. Joint is right here. When you bend the knee, the joint is at the ankle. That's the hanging up part, right? If you go to straighten and pull yourself up, it should be, though you might still feel the joint, you should now feel the inclusion of your calf. Do a couple more. Hinge, let the knee push forward over the toes. Check out the alignment of your foot so that when you bend your leg, if the big toe and the ball of the foot kind of roll to the pinky toe, you have to control the load, and you do that by ankle and knee positioning, right? So now that you're compressed and you're focusing on having the big toe aspect right at the ball of the foot and the big toe loaded, can you load it and then try to twist your knee out so that your knee isn't sliding in towards the other leg? This is why every single thing that we do has a continuing degree of challenge and attention and ability. So if you just bend your leg and put your weight on your big toe, your knee more than likely is going to slide in, and that's not where it needs to be. Stay hunkered down and try to twist the knee out without moving the heel. It will change your sensation. And come up. Whew. Release, relax, move your weight. Goodness. How is it that we can spend 10 minutes doing something? It's been more than 10 minutes. Just like that, right? This is why it takes me 2 hours to get through my workout. All right. Now, foam roller and mat. We're probably going to be up and down. We're going to start with the most basic version, rolling our anterior tibs, all right, with the foam roller. And this is going to feel like you're getting an upper body workout, all right? There are a couple of ways to do this. We're going to go and scale it. So we'll do the less aggressive position first. You're like, okay, well, if I'm rolling the front of my leg, Does that mean I need to be face down towards the mat? Essentially. So how tight are you? Right? There's this thing. If you put your shins on the foam and you're in this hand and knee position, right? Your knees aren't touching the mat. Your knees aren't touching the shin, but now your body is loading the shins. If your shins are really sensitive, then this is going to be too aggressive. Try a few seconds of it because we're not going to stay here. If you just stayed here, it'd be really uncomfortable. But you're going to try to move the hands and pull the roller, right? And you'll get to a place where you don't have to keep moving the hands. You can just pull the roller. And here's where we go. How do you get off the front of that tibia bone? And you know that the meat of the muscle is kind of on the side. And I would just say to you to be prepared to have your knees running a little bit off center, right? And you're just doing a couple inches at a time, right? Swivel it the other way, a couple inches at a time, and your hands are staying still. It's like your legs are doing a little phenomenal abdominal exercise. So think of it that way. A few more seconds, right? And down you go. We're not done with them. We're giving ourselves a little bit of a break. Okay, one foot's going to stay on the foam. One foot steps through. I 100% know the challenge of just getting your body positioned properly for many of these movements that really should be part of our staple body care is so hard that they just get left off. And from a kneeling position, give yourself as much cushion as you need. This is low level foot lift, right? We're going to start tackling that quad and hip flexor. So all I want you to do is pelvic tilt. Let the hips push back and pelvic tilt. Your ability to dial in the pelvic tilt to eliminate excessive S curve is all you're focusing on, right? I would say less than perfect form, right? And if that's you and you're really tight and you can't get your derriere to pull forward, that should be the wake up bell for you. And if you're really tight here with your foot barely lifted, but yet you can't pull up because what you feel is so intense, then you need to take the foam out from under your foot because that's too much for you. Your goal is to get vertical line, hand, pit, hip, and knee, and then tilt away from that kneeling knee. Ah, release. Now, how much pushback can you get? So if you start sitting yourself back, at what point does your knee, maybe not, say, oh, that's awkward. I'm okay, but that's awkward. And the other leg is forward. You do not have to sit your hips down on your foot. So long as your knee isn't the part of you that's the burdening part, push your hips back and draw your body down towards the front leg. If you're able to rock yourself back and sit on that foot, even better. If you're able to straighten your front leg, even better. If you're able to take your foot on that front leg and internally rotate it and reach the hand for your pinky toe, pull the ankle towards you. All of this can be done with your hips high, right? So don't feel like because you can't sit back that you can't get to the full degree of the front leg stretch. Internally rotating that front foot and creating ankle flexion, right, is where it's at. Bend the front leg, put both hands on the inside of that foot of the front leg. Your hips are now into full forward push. Take your back leg, get the knee from the floor. So your foot should be resting on your foam. Massive amount of stretch through the inner thigh. We're going to touch the back knee down, and you're going to just take your foam and get it out of your way, okay? And as I go into the next part of this stretch, it's going to have my back to you. So the hand that goes with the knee that's on the floor, that hand stays on the floor and it moves wide, all right? Now, if you can get your back foot to flex and take the load, all you're going to do is swivel your hips, both legs, right? So the front foot goes to a perpendicular to the body. You navigate it, even though you can't see it. Let your hip on that rear straight leg twist, and you're coming down to put your side hip on the floor and say hello to a massive stretch at the top of what's essentially your hip hinge, your QL area. So this is awkward. And now you don't have to reverse yourself out of it. Just keep rolling. And now you're out of it. Don't worry about what you didn't see. Hopefully you were able to swivel your body and get to a nice lean line. But that also provided a massive amount of workload for the arm that was supporting you. You'll get to do it again on the other leg. All right. So sometimes the first side that does something, there's an awkwardness to it, right? Because the body doesn't know what's coming. Take leg number 2, put the foot on the foam, run your experiment, other leg up comfortably wide. Do you need more cushion? Don't let your knee say, oh my gosh, that's the part that hurts. I can't even focus because I'm so uncomfortable. Don't let that happen. You're just holding. Go through the aspect of your hips being pushed back. This is where the mirror, right, really reveals how clean of a line do you have. As soon as you lift your chest up from your thigh and you start your pelvic tilt, release the pelvic tilt, activate the pelvic tilt, release, activate, release. Now get ready on this full pelvic tilt action, right? Raise the arm if your shoulder permits it. If your arm is forward, right? That's not aligned with your shoulder and hip and knee. Raise it up. And you're going to tilt towards the other side, all the while doing more pelvic tilt. And if this becomes too much, take the tilt out of it and or drop your foot from the foam. Release. All right. So now you're starting the push back, right? Let the hips push back. The floor is there, right? Can you get your torso down and then test by you supporting your body weight, some of it with your hands, pull your hands back so that as you start sitting back, you can go incrementally to determine whether or not your knee can actually handle the flexion. And though I didn't tell you to get ready for it, if you know in compressed load that just happens to be a spot that draws your attention and there's too much pressure at your knee, then now would be a good time to get your towel or whatever it is you use for knee gapping and put it right there behind that crease line. You could even use your hand, right? Let's just say, oh, I don't have a towel handy. I'm too lazy. I don't feel like getting up, but I feel like that's something I need. Take your hand, put it in that crease. Come on down. You're not going to hurt your hand. And now figure out what you're doing with your front leg, right? So you are doing knee gapping by using your hand. You're coming down. Oh, So since you only have one hand to support you, if you're fully seated like this, check out that front leg. You want to internally rotate the foot. Don't even worry about flexing it. Just try to straighten the leg. Bring your shoulders down towards that knee, right? If you can do more, right, then just pull your ankle into tighter flexed position while you straighten your leg. Release. All right. Start coming out of it. Both hands are coming to the inside of that front leg. And you're just going to take your foot, let your foot move your foam. Let the front leg slide forward so that the hips come nice and low into this opened position. Okay. Take your back foot, flex it. Get the back knee from the floor. Right there is a massive amount of stretch. So the hand that goes with the straight leg stays on the floor. Right? And your whole body swivels, which means the front foot has to turn, the back leg turns, and you come off of your toes onto the side edge of your foot. And then you just try to get yourself straight lined and lowering the hips towards the floor while not buckling the arm. That's the hard part. How do you get your hips to the floor without bending that support arm? And then keep rotating until you're facing forward. Ta-da! So now, if you had your mat rolled up, unroll it, get on it, crisscross feet, roll into it. How tight can you get your bottom to your feet and as tiny as you could make yourself? So if your arms tend to want to reach out, fold everything in, like let your hand go for the opposite knee or foot and pull yourself down as tiny as you can make yourself. And then roll up, big stretching arms up, reach, get into your good clean sit, expansion with the fingers turned out, pull down, keep them away from you, lean back, lengthen through the elbows, push up so that your jawline goes up, but your shoulders, we want the shoulders. This is why you push with your hands. Your hands push, and as your hands push, it automatically sets shoulder depression and then retraction so that your neck, right, can move without feeling like it's bound up. Now, gently the head comes out of full extension. Take the hands off the floor. Can you extend your legs? Switch the crisscrossed ankles around. Even if your knees are way up here, right? Grab hold, make yourself tiny. If you can float down, get in there nice and tight. You're doing opposite hand to knee or foot and pull your elbows to the floor and draw your jaw to the clavicle and put forehead down. Slow up roll. Get ready, be expressive, reach up like there's a rope that you're pulling yourself up to. Once you get here, rock your body on your sit bones, expand, push. There's something that's like awkward about getting around this space here. Fingers are turned back, heels of hands touch the floor. Initially, as your hands are finding the right spot, the arms might be bent. My arms bend because I know that I need my tricep to get around this little bit of back mass. So my elbows bow out in order for me to accentuate, right? Or exaggerate, whatever word you feel is best, that whole push and depression. And then the neck is free and clear. I'm pressing the heels of the hands firmly to the floor. Push the heels of the hands down like you're trying to lift your fingertips, right? That's the force. Ah. Now, soften your parts, keep your hands positioned, uncross the legs, move the legs. If you're using your mat as this gauge, for me, I'm like, okay, I got to square up my mat. Let's start from the beginning. Feet as close to the edges of the mat as possible, hands as close to the edges as possible. Fingers are turned back, extension through the arms. Get ready. Start pulling your hips up. So, pelvic tilt. Now, imagine what it would take to get you into tabletop. Or like a lot. I can't do it successfully, and we can't do it this way with our arms this way, but sit your hips down. As you sit your hips down, let your hips pull back. Pull back. Don't put the hips down until your hips pull back, and now they're in line with your hands. Straighten your legs. Raise up. Reach forward. Aim for the middle of your mat. Rock the sits bones. Get your butt mass in the right spot. Now, keep walking the hands forward. The feet are flexed. You're bringing your abdomen through that space. Fingers are walking towards the edge of the mat. Push the legs down firmly. The toes are pointed up and release. Raise up. This time, instead of having your hands turned back, our hands are going to be turned forward. Keep them wide because it will help you in your bridge. So raise up, bend the legs, get around your space. It's harder to get around your space with the legs bent like this, but the hands down, nice and wide. Look at your fingers. They're pointing forward. All right. Now, round. So you come out of that humped back position by pulling your shoulders into that retracted, depressed position. Push the hands firmly into the floor. As you start to lift your hips, the stretch should be happening kind of through that forearm and wrist area. And now swish the hips up, squeeze the buns. The part of this that we're going to try to get to is not only lifting the hips, but then realizing that we have to take our head, keep your chin tucked, but try to lay the head back like it's on the table. Lift the hips. Start lowering the hips, but don't let the butt hit the floor. You draw your hips back, push the arms firmly into the floor so that you can get your hips back. Pause right there. Now you're in a nice clean S-sit. Straighten the legs, take the pressure off your wrists. It is a lot of pressure, just like what happens when we go to stretch our ankles, right? And not stretch the ankles, but make them have a greater degree of flexion. Raise the arms, spread the legs, pull up like there's a string taking you higher, and then the string lengthens you forward. Try to shove your hips back. So at about a third of the forward fold, you rock yourself to get your butt mass retracting. And that helps you get into your fold, and just let the fingers come down. It's not about bringing your forehead down. It's about you getting sandwiched, pancake. And that might not be us fully, but do the best you can. So if you use your fingers, right? As the fingers crawl forward and then you hit the pause button and you might rock a little bit side to side. And you try to keep taking that tailbone area and pushing it back. You see, every time you try to get out of C curve and you're like, oh, I have so much control right here if I will just use the internal control that I have to align and lengthen. Come out of C curve into S curve. Let the fingers go a little bit further forward. Try to do S. Fingers forward. S with the hips. Keep doing fingers. Straighten the legs, toes up, knees pushing towards the mat. Spine, you're trying to attain S. Even if it doesn't look it, just the action of you trying to get your bust or chest away from the floor is how you get into a better S sit and release. Phew, that was a lot. Okay. All right. The next phase is a little bit more intense. Want you to grab your extra cushion and your stretch out strap, grab a little drink, right? You're coming right back down. We're going to revisit a more intense quad positioning. Whew. All right, extra knee cushion. I'm just putting my Eric's pad into the equation. I'm putting the Eric's pad into my equation for my knee. Now, I didn't say it, but it's a necessary thing. If you have a sofa handy or your chair handy, the chair will become the anchor spot for the top of your foot. So where we were using the foam roller, right? If on the first go of this, if the foam roller or the foot resting on the foam roller in a kneeling position was too intense, well, then we know you're not going to be able to advance to the chair, right? So just keep that in mind. But this is the thing. You can repeat the kneeling position with the foam roller and see if on take 2, the body is more receptive. But the challenge lies in trying to figure out, where does your knee kneel in relation to where the edge of the chair is? All right. So that might not make sense to you, but if my chair edge was all the way scooched up and my knee didn't move, but now my foot, right? Now I've got a much tighter angle here. The stretch it's impossible for me to get my alignment because it feels like I'm ripping, right? So no, we don't want strain, we want stretch. So if what you feel in your front thigh on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being more intense, if you're feeling a level 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 of intensity, then your knee is too close to where the edge of your support base is. And that sounds like, well, that should be easy enough for someone to figure out. But yet, every time I give this stretch to clients, we go through this whole dialogue that I'm having now. And every time, same client, all clients get the dialogue, every single setup. And I find that though you hear the words, right? Processing the words to then actually executing to clean line, there's a disconnect. So move your chair or move your knee so that you can attain knee, hip, shoulder, vertical line. I know it sounds like I'm being really picky, but the thing is when your butt is pushing back, You're not in it. It's only when you get stacked. And as you get stacked, pull the belly up, right? We are not trying to necessarily rock our hips back to our foot, right? That will come when this is free. Then we can focus on getting our hips back. And now I want you to just do a little bit of gliding. As you glide forward while you maintain your nice line, you should feel the stretch deepen, right? The intensity changes a little bit. What are you going to do with your strap? It might not be something for everybody. But if your strap has a loop, how close are you to getting your hand to your foot? And if you just come out of form for a second, and if you can take your foot and go, okay, I'm going to loop my foot and then let it rest on the chair, right? You've got that strap, pull it over your shoulder. Uh-oh. So now keep pelvic tilting. Release the pelvic tilt, pelvic tilt. Release the pelvic tilt, pelvic tilt. Release. Tilt and stop. Forward glide like you were a moment ago. Rock back. Get enough tension on your strap, right? Pull up so it's tight. Your foot doesn't have to leave the chair yet, but keep tension on it. And as you forward glide, the foot should leave the chair. This is tricky because now, right, you might not be used to what the feeling is to just have support at the knee without the toe touching the floor or some object. Some of you have enough control to actually get your hand to your foot. And if you do, then you kind of don't need the strap. But not everybody can get there. It's awkward. It's unstable, right? So whether you've got strap or your hand to your foot, right? Find your balance, rock into it as far forward as the body will let you go and rock back, knowing that the chair is always there if you lose your balance or the foot just goes to the floor or let go of your strap. Don't fall down. So pull up on it, right? Square the hips. Can I just say this one little thing? Because now that we're here in the nitty-gritty of it, we need to take this part of us, the side that's stretching, and twist all of it towards our base leg. So try that. Take your shoulder, take your hip, because the compensation is that we're open and that's the wrong angle. Start twisting towards your other leg and feel the difference of the stretch line and hang out here for 5, 4, 3, 2. Now take the pressure off of it. Let the foot come down. Don't worry about taking the strap off. It'll fall off when it's ready. Hands down to the inside of the front foot. Take your back leg. Stiffen up the leg so the knee comes off your cushion. Move your cushion. The straight arm, the support arm goes with the straight leg. Swivel your body away, right, from your straight arm. Maybe you need to knuckle down it to protect your wrist. Twisting, twisting, twisting onto the side edge of the foot, and then gently sliding the hips down to the floor. This is the hard part because there's some sticky stuff in that hip complex, and not to mention how hard is it to support yourself. And down you go and unwind yourself. Leg number 2. All right, here we go. Set it up. Get on your cushion. I'm making a huge assumption, right? The huge assumption is that, well, the part of me that's encouraging you to be on your knees, even if that's a really uncomfortable thing for you, I want to feel that what I have been led to believe about our ability to kneel has some truth to it. And you're like, what does that mean? So when we stop doing certain things, right? Before you know it, your body can't do those things anymore. And so part of how we process whether or not something is really legitimately good for you or not often comes down to sensation, right? So if this is why I remind you that keep creating enough cushion so that the press points, the contact points with whatever you're using, that's not the part of where your focus is drawn to. When we lose the ability to have our parts connect on the floor or against pressure, it's all part of the breakdown of function. And if you will just remind yourself of that, right? Because what you feel, the connection of your body weighted and pushing against something might be uncomfortable, but that's like different than arthritis uncomfortable, right? I view it as things already being misaligned. And with that thought, it inspires me to just stay the course with it, right? So that's all I can recommend you do. So hopefully you're in it, you're feeling it, you've been floating in and out of your pelvic tilt. The alignment of where your angle of your foot sets, right? To the pressure on your knee, to the pelvis not being in the right spot, it might be that you have to go hands down and lift the weight off that knee a little bit and twist your hips and then reset the knee just to figure out the pressure, the sensation. Could all of that stuff around and under the patella be equally as tight as it is everywhere else in your body, which is what's causing the discomfort? That's the thing you have to figure out. Okay, so do your very best. Ready? Loop the foot. Can you get the foot? Why are we so much focusing on the quads, hip flexors, all of this compression through the knee? Right? So right now, the beauty of the angle of the foot is at extension, right? The ankle is opened, right? I'm not even thinking about your ankle, but yet it's still receiving the benefit of the stretch. Pelvic tilt. Glide forward a little bit. See what happens, right? Here's why you keep using the reference point of sensation. It might be that you're at your threshold just trying to stabilize, and it's all you can do to go, I'm trying, Michelle, but man, I am as uncomfortable as I ever want to be. Do a few more seconds. As you push into it, everything is going to actually increase in pressure. I'm pulling on my strap as my body moves forward, so I have this constant tension. And as I rock forward, my foot just comes with me. It doesn't get closer to my hip. It's like it's all one unit, okay? I can get my foot closer to my hip, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to reach my hand back and I'm going to grab my foot and I'm going to tighten up my angle because I can. And I'm going to rock into it a little bit. A few more seconds of rock. Hold the forward push. Pelvic tilt just a little bit. Twist the hips towards your front anchored leg. Massive. And now ease yourself to your released position. Everything about that should have put you at your threshold of like, oh my gosh, I so want to stop this. If that's where you were, I was right there with you. Okay, here we go. Hands down. Take your back leg, flex the foot, get off of the knee, which in and of itself should feel like it takes a few seconds. Let the front leg slide forward. Move your cushion. Are you ready? This anchor arm is the arm that goes with that extended leg behind you. Twist your hips towards that side so that your foot swivels and your body gets supported. Massive workload here. And then with your arm straight and your torso long, don't buckle the elbow if you can help it. Push against that leg. Guide yourself down. Shoulders retract. Why are our parts so stuck? Keep rolling. When you get a degree of connection to the floor, offload the pressure. Amazing, right? All of that should make you go, phew, glad we don't do that every day. But guess how good our bodies would be if we actually did do that every day. Now, move your chair. We're going to do something that hopefully feels restorative, okay? And the restorative part of this is going to have to do with, I'm just getting my chair totally out of my way. I don't want it. Okay. So where are we going? I want your foam roller. And since you have hopefully a big cushion or your Airx pad close by, that's going to be part of your equation too. Some of you might even have one of those bolstering pads. Why I don't have a bolstering pad, that is going to be my next purchase. It has to be, because it is the perfect size for this. So push your foam roller far enough away from you. Find the right zone so that you can have your head on the foam roller, and then lift your hips and bring your cushion under your hips, because most of us will need a little bit of support in order to actually get, we want our hip, that whole waistline area to sit. There's a reason why we're not on the foam in its chest expansion position, though we are doing chest expansion. We're just doing it with our lowered hip base. So focus on getting your head comfortably, right? So you're not tilting the head back. Your foam is definitely right between your shoulder blades. Your hips are supported enough so that your head isn't cocking back. That's your guideline. How much hip support do you need so that your head stays in neutral? And then the arms are open to T. Now, that's the upper body portion. Try not to lift your head. Take your feet. Let the bottoms of the feet touch each other with the legs flared out. Once you get the feet touching each other, do a couple of little pelvic tilts so you can feel yourself settle into centered neutral. This is considered a restorative posture for the body. So if you are uncomfortable, then that means there's an adjustment you need to make. Your arms are not fully extended. You want to let the arms soften. That doesn't mean that the elbows need to hit the floor. That just means that you're relaxed, right? The palms are turned up. Here's where we're letting gravity take the limbs and just pull everything down to the floor. You're not muscularly doing anything. You can close your eyes if that makes you feel comfortable. But in this position, we're going to just focus on a couple of deep breaths. Why don't we say 5? And I want you to do it really slow. Okay. And there's going to be a progressive nature to this. So we'll say you've done 1. As you do your next inhale, I want you to try to get an extra little sip of air at the filling up part. Hold it for a moment. Open your mouth. Exhale through your mouth. Do it again. Feel your belly rise as you inhale. Take an extra sip. Exhale, but it's not slow. It just is like you're blowing up a balloon. It's totally, there's so many ways to decompress the system. And this double inhale, don't hold your, like you're not trying to keep your middle tight when you inhale. You want it to expand, right? And then it's as you exhale, the abdominal wall compresses, but not with force. This next one's your last one. Inhale, feel the abdomen rise. Do you know most people actually even deep breathe wrong? Release. So if as you inhale, your chest like slides up the body instead of the air coming through the abdomen area, then you've even taught yourself to breathe with the wrong emphasis on your parts. Now take your hands, easy does it, lift the head from the foam. Once your head gets up, use your arms, help yourself off. Whew. So now, rolling to modified cobra. Just wiggle the hips a little bit. You can get yourself back on the mat if you want to get over there, but if you don't want to move your stuff, you're going to stay here for an extra second. I want us to finish with our reverse windshield wipers. So you're going to level out your body. If your shoulders permit you to go palms overlapped and forehead on your hands, elbows spread, the body is as flat as you can get it, and then legs comfortably apart. Bend your legs and then swish the legs side to side. We're not trying to go to full like push over where you feel like your feet are trying to smack the floor. This is all part of your relaxing, and this is what we finished with. So give me about 10 more little swishes. Like in this position, my brain says, no, don't stop here. Let's go into the frog stretch. So I guess that's what we're going to do. If you need to go, I totally understand, but I'm going to finish with us going into frog stretch. So take the legs, separate the feet, twist the knees and hips and feet out so that you're no longer on the top of the thigh. And the hips are just kind of rocking side to side. And when you rock, one leg goes to this twisted out position, and then you rock to the other side. All right. And now at some point, you'll feel like you're as far opened as you can get. Start working your elbows under you, pushing yourself up. We are on the insides of our knees. Look at your feet. They are tracking straight down from the insides of the knees, and just drive your elbows back enough so you feel the adductors stretch. Shoulders out of the ears. You can do this little rock in and out, sometimes releasing the stretch just for that nanosecond allows you to push back into it, right? Let's do about 10 more little rocks and then we'll get on our feet. 5, 4, 3, 2, pause, come up to your hands. Start working those feet into position, downward dog, heels to floor, walk the hands back, get balanced on your feet, rounded spine, up and roll. Feel yourself raise all the way up to your full stretch, lift and breathe. Release and relax. Oh, man. Another one in the books. Happy Monday, right?